Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another weekly wisdom. This week, we have been talking all about employee resource groups over at CNetwork. Everything is preparing us for this big employee resource group bootcamp that we're doing for any DEI champion who's looking to either start employee resource groups or take them to the next level. So I thought today's weekly wisdom could be all about how to take that employee resource group that you have, whether it's the one that your organization has or whether your organization already has several, how to take it to the next level. So we have 3 ways that you can do that within your organization using some of the suggestions that we are including in our bootcamp. Now, if you haven't yet heard about our bootcamp, you have to go over to cnetwork.com. And you'll be able to see it's pretty prominently at the top of our website that we have this exciting experience ready for you. It is a 6-week long boot camp with a whole bunch of stuff, but let me save that for the end of this session. Hold tight to learn more about what that looks like. And let's get into these 3 ways to take your ERGs to the next level. So as you may know, we need people to lead employee resource groups. And maybe you already have an appointed leader within your employee resource group, but this is something we suggest whenever we look at the different structures within these employee resource groups. And now again, remember that an employee resource group is one way to call these groups, one term for these groups. Some people call them affinity groups. Some people call them business resource groups. These are all versions of the same collective that is there to support employees of a particular identity. And of course, that identity can be anything from a racial identity to an experiential identity and anything in between. So there's a whole lot of opportunity when creating these employee resource groups, but that means that there's also a whole lot of responsibility with leading these groups. So we always recommend that if you have one leader right now leading your employee resource group, a way to take your employee resource group to the next level is to elect 2 to work together as co-chairs. What you might find is when you have one leader, that one leader is really the person who drives that group. And if that one leader has maybe a lot of work going on in a particular quarter, or if they're feeling a little overwhelmed by any of the responsibilities of the group, you might find that the group feels that. When you have 2 people leading your employee resource group, you can have a lot more of a balanced approach between them, and there's a lot more of a shared responsibility between the 2. So that's one way you can go ahead and boost the effectiveness of your employee resource group starting today if you wanted to. Here's the next one. What we always talk about in addition to the co-chairs is that you have an executive sponsor. Now, this is a very common role within employee resource groups. However, if you're just getting started, you might not know that this could be a really important part of your leadership team. Now, an executive sponsor is specifically someone with seniority within your organization who can influence and support on your behalf. And if you are an employee resource group that's just starting out, or if you've been around for a little while, but you're really looking to get that influence across the organization, finding that 1, maybe 2 people to support you at that level and to feel that they are connected to your employee resource group through a role like the executive sponsor can help you take your ERG to the next level. Okay. We have another one coming up here. And again, I want to ask you to check out cnetwork.com because again, we have this bootcamp and we're excited about it because we've gotten a chance to chat with a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion champions and employee resource group leaders or people who are really interested in starting employee resource groups or affinity groups or business resource groups. And some of these tips are tips that we share with them, and it's like, oh my goodness, we didn't know. All of these tips and so much more are in the bootcamp. So again, you can check it out at cnetwork.com, and I also will show you in a bit what that looks like and where you can sign up. So here's the third thing you can do to take your employee resource groups to the next level. You can consider how your ERG can help directly support the business. Now, let's say you have a humming system in place, you have your leadership in place, you have your co-chairs, you have your executive sponsor, you're doing a great job of supporting the people who share the identity that you're there to support. You have amazing events and experiences. This is something that we see companies that are ready to take their ERGs to that even next level pay attention to. It is considering how the employee resource group can directly touch and support the business. And there are many ways that having the group think about the customer experience, having them think about the product offerings can go a long way to making sure that you're fully and effectively driving the business. So if you aren't at this level yet, this is that next frontier. And it's why a lot of organizations call their employee resource groups business resource groups, because they find that at that level, these groups can be powerful. So let's go through this again, just to make sure that you're fully wrapping your head around these three takeaways. And again, I have to emphasize that these are just 3 ways to take your employee resource groups or affinity groups or business resource groups to the next level. But there's so much more in that boot camp, and I will show you in a second what that is. Let me go ahead and put my name back here. Elect 2 people to lead the co-chairs as co-chairs. Appoint an executive sponsor. And lastly, consider how that employee resource group that you're leading and supporting can help directly support the business. That will not only actually support the business, but it will also allow others within the organization to really see how important these groups are. And sometimes it can get you more visibility and more resources. So those are the 3 things that I wanted to make sure I highlighted for you. And now I want to share with you the details of the boot camp. So I'm going to go ahead to our website. We're going to go to cnetwork.com. Let me go ahead and switch over to that. We're going to go to cnetwork.com, and if you notice at the very top, there's a click here to enroll today. You're going to make sure you click that, and it will take you to this page. And this page explains all about what you can expect out of the Employee Resource Group Bootcamp. We're really excited about this because we're trying to do more experiences for DEI practitioners and DEI champions, both formal and informal. We're trying to drive more experiences that will help you do a better job within your workplace to build a more diverse, equitable, inclusive workplace. So here you can see that what's included is the exclusive access to 6 weeks of self-paced learning materials, networking and community building with other DEI or ERG leaders. We are going to be pulling together experiences as much as possible for you and those who are participating to meet each other, to network, to build connection, and to make sure that if you wanted to, you could take ideas from others and give ideas to others. We also will be hosting a panel event of employee resource group leaders and their success stories. We have some very cool employee resource group leaders coming to join us in person in our New York office for an event that all people who engage in this boot camp are invited to, whether they are in person in New York or virtual. And this is something that we will make sure everyone has access to. But what's, I think, pretty great is that it will only be for those who are involved in this boot camp. So you have to be part of the boot camp in order to come to this panel and to experience those success stories. We also will be hosting 60-minute webinars throughout the 6 weeks on any DEI topic of your choice. We do these webinars all the time, by the way, for our clients. And we do them, not for free, right? So we charge for these webinars, and our hope is that if DEI leaders who are involved in these boot camps have questions, maybe beyond the employee resource groups, we can put together a webinar like the ones we do for the executives we work with that can help support their growth and learning. And then, of course, we also have office hours with experts and individualized coaching with those of us who are leading the event. And lastly, we have a completion certificate that also can be used for your SHRM recertification. So all of that is coming to you, and we couldn't be more excited about it. There's more detail for you at this website, again, cnetwork.com, and you can check it out. Okay, I'm a little over my 10 minutes. I know weekly wisdoms are usually 10 minutes long, but thank you for checking that out and for listening in on the 3 ways you can build a more effective ERG, or how to take that ERG to the next level. Check us out again at CNetwork, and I will see you next week. Oh, that's not true. I'm actually on vacation on Tuesday, so I will see you in 2 weeks for the next weekly wisdom. Thanks, everyone.